A violent weather pattern shift is now unfolding across the United States, and forecasters are warning this could escalate into a dangerous nationwide weather disaster over the next several days. An enormous heat dome is preparing to explode across the country, sending temperatures surging into the 90s from the south to the east coast, while simultaneously unleashing a volatile collision of extreme heat and invading cold air from the west. That combination is the perfect recipe for atmospheric chaos. And once those two air masses collide, the atmosphere could become explosive. A powerful cold front diving out of the western United States is expected to slam into dangerously unstable air loaded with Gulf moisture and intense summer heat. Meteorologists are increasingly concerned this setup could trigger widespread severe weather outbreaks capable of producing destructive winds, giant hail, intense lightning, torrential rain, and potentially life-threatening storms from the plains to the Great Lakes and Northeast. The pattern is becoming more aggressive with every update. At first, the heat dome dominates. Dangerous heat will rapidly spread across the central and eastern United States, creating hazardous temperatures and oppressive humidity levels. Some areas could surge well into the 90s, with heat indices climbing even higher as tropical moisture floods northward. But behind that heat comes the real threat. As colder air crashes in from the west, the atmosphere will destabilize rapidly. The temperature contrast between scorching surface heat and unusually cold air aloft is expected to create extreme atmospheric instability, essentially supercharging thunderstorm development across multiple regions. Forecasters are now watching for the potential of very large hail events, damaging straight-line winds, and widespread severe thunderstorm clusters capable of traveling hundreds of miles. The setup resembles classic high-impact spring and early summer outbreak patterns. And this may last for days. The jet stream configuration is creating what meteorologists call a blocking pattern, trapping heat over the eastern half of the country while forcing repeated disturbances into the central United States. That means storms could continuously redevelop along the same corridor from Texas through the Midwest and eventually into the Northeast. The Gulf of Mexico is also becoming a major fuel source. Powerful southerly winds are pulling massive amounts of humidity northward, creating dangerously high dew points and feeding the atmosphere with unlimited moisture. That extra moisture will not only increase storm intensity, it also raises the risk of flash flooding and torrential rainfall events across heavily populated areas. By late weekend into next week, confidence is growing that this could evolve into one of the most intense weather patterns seen so far this season. Forecast models are now trending toward a deeper trough of colder air pushing farther south than previously expected, meaning the battle zone between extreme heat and cold instability may become even more violent. The result could be repeated rounds of severe weather stretching from the southern plains all the way into the Great Lakes and Mid-Atlantic. Lightning activity may become extreme. Large hail threats are increasing. Damaging wind events are becoming more likely. And dangerous heat will continue spreading eastward underneath the expanding upper-level ridge. This is not a normal summer pattern beginning to develop. The atmosphere is entering a highly volatile state where heat, moisture, and instability are all surging at the same time. The next several days could become very dangerous across large portions of the United States. What makes this setup even more concerning is how quickly the atmosphere is changing. Just days ago, severe weather risks looked relatively isolated and manageable. Now, multiple forecast models are suddenly locking on to a much more dangerous scenario, where intense heat, deep moisture, and colder upper-level energy all collide at the same time across the heart of the nation. That is a recipe for explosive storm development. The biggest concern moving forward is the rapid increase in atmospheric energy. Cape values, essentially the fuel thunderstorms feed on, are expected to surge dramatically as the heat dome expands. At the same time, strong wind energy higher in the atmosphere will begin interacting with that unstable air mass, allowing storms to organize and strengthen rapidly. This is when ordinary thunderstorms can evolve into dangerous severe weather complexes. Some storms may begin producing extremely large hail capable of causing widespread damage to vehicles, homes, and infrastructure. Other storms could unleash destructive straight-line winds strong enough to knock down trees and power lines across multiple states. And if enough wind shear develops near the frontal boundary, isolated tornado threats may also begin entering the picture. The danger zone appears enormous. Current projections show the highest risk corridor stretching from portions of Texas and Oklahoma through Kansas, Missouri, Illinois, the Great Lakes, and eventually parts of the Northeast as the pattern shifts eastward. Millions of people may find themselves directly underneath this battle zone between summer heat and invading cold air. But the storms themselves may not be the only issue. Flash flooding concerns are also increasing rapidly. The atmosphere is expected to become loaded with tropical moisture as strong southerly winds continue pulling humidity northward out of the Gulf. Some areas could see repeated rounds of storms tracking over the same locations, dramatically increasing the threat of dangerous flooding, especially in urban areas and low-lying regions. Forecast rainfall totals are beginning to climb, and the atmosphere may not get much time to recover between storm systems. That means one round of severe weather could quickly be followed by another as new disturbances rotate through the jet stream.
Meteorologists are closely watching signs that this active pattern may continue well into next week, with repeated severe weather episodes possible. Meanwhile, the heat itself is becoming a serious concern. Nighttime temperatures may stay abnormally warm across the south and east, preventing buildings, roads, and even the human body from cooling down properly. Combined with high humidity, the prolonged heat could create dangerous conditions for vulnerable populations, especially the elderly and those without reliable cooling. The atmosphere is beginning to resemble a midsummer pattern months ahead of schedule. And with every new forecast update, confidence continues growing that the United States is entering an increasingly volatile stretch of weather capable of producing widespread impacts from coast to coast. This pattern is no longer just active. It is starting to look dangerous.